Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy. Welcome back again. Today, I am very excited to have Michael Jobity on the call. He's a co-founder of Tunify, all the way coming from Canada. And just to give you guys some context, Michael and I met back in 2018 when we were both interns at Airbus in Bristol in the UK. We basically got to know each other and we clicked along very well in some very interesting topics. So one of the big things was actually Gary Vee's motivational speech and his view towards life. We clicked pretty well with that. And just in general, I think he was a great inspiration for all his hard work and ethics inspired me. And this really video is very interesting for those of you who are curious about the aerospace industry, if you're interested in the entrepreneurial journey as a young professional, if you're interested in music, and like I said, if you want some inspiration from a very hardworking and you want some motivation and inspiration, this video is for you. So without further ado, we'll get right in. Michael, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here, and thank you for the kind words. Really appreciate it.
No worries. So before we get in, Michael, I think the audience would love to know who you are, where you came from, right? And so would you be able to take us on your life journey, take through the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Hamilton, which is a city in Canada, Ontario, actually very close to Toronto, about like a 45-minute drive from Toronto. And so I grew up, I went to elementary school here, high school, and I was always interested in like new cutting edge technologies, but also like trends and like what's going to be the next big thing. And there was kind of like two things, like what's going to be the next big thing and how can I create something that'll be the next big thing? Those are two kind of interesting avenues that I was always interested in, like as a student and as like for my younger self. So I remember in high school, I would like to be involved in a lot of different clubs and committees, but I remember my mind just being, my mind just exploding when I learned about relativity and quantum mechanics, as nerdy as that sounds. In grade 11, my physics teacher showed me a video, and they're like, yeah, so there's space-time curvature, and you fall to the earth because there's a curve in space-time. Okay. And I remember going home and being like, why didn't you tell me this before, to my parents? And they're like, we didn't know like you were interested in that. But yeah, it was a really great and like eye-opening experience for me. So that kind of accelerated my interest in physics. I remember I was just like researching physics theories at night and like mathematics, and that drove me to studying engineering physics and management. And the reason that I studied, I did the combined physics and management was because I found it's important to know, the technical expertise of creating innovative products, but also the ability to market it and to look at different trends out there, being able to communicate your idea effectively, look at your financial projections. These were a lot of integrated in a lot of the courses that I was taking. So similar to high school, I got a lot involved in McMaster. So McMaster is the university that I went to. I was part of a rocketry team where we built sounding rockets, the drone team. And at the time, drones were just kind of, on the come up, and they were just starting to kind of grow and scale. So that was really interesting to see how big that market is now. But I also loved giving back to like students and, first years, helping them mentor them into their university careers. So I was like a representative for McMaster, and I met a lot of really interesting and like-minded people through that program. Um, but yeah, so after those experiences, that kind of helped me gain leverage to apply for, different opportunities for like co-op positions and internships. So one of the first co-ops I worked at was Van Wyn, which is an aerospace startup, and we developed geostationary high altitude balloon platforms. And basically what that is in a nutshell is, a large balloon with a scaffold that sits in the stratosphere, and you can do like image surveillance. So we had like military contracts. I was working with like the U.S. military, as well as like scientists who wanted to bring payloads up to do tests for like weather. And I was fortunate to be the project manager for that. And I was essentially like running the company for 4 months. So I was just kind of like handed all these elements of entrepreneurship very early on. And I was like, wow. And I realized like, I could do something like this. Like this seems like I kind of understand the major elements of what makes a business solid and what kind of creates that foundation. So when I went back to school, I actually started working on for a platform that connects students who have the same passion. And it was all idea phase, in that first year, but eventually over time, I developed it into a platform that's live right now, and it's called Flame On. And right now it's being used in 4 continents, and it's close to 1,000 active users each month. And we're planning to grow that each month as well. So that's really exciting. But yeah, so after that, I applied to go to Airbus, and it took my, actually, no, I worked at Hydro One before that, which is an energy company doing like electrical distribution. So like power lines, transformers, very heavy on electrical engineering. But I learned a lot about like the electrical grid and what makes a reliable system. There's so many factors involved, and interruption data when there's storms. So that was really cool. But yeah, then I worked at Airbus, and I interviewed. I don't think I interviewed with Taka actually. I worked in, or no, I interviewed in Chester,
Okay.
and then yeah, then I came back in July, which was really great. And then, I eventually met Taka here, who's doing an amazing job and is very inspirational. And yeah, as you mentioned, like we clicked. We were working in different departments, but we lived very close together. And that was a really cool experience. So I worked in the production sites, pushing like Industry 4.0 and digital transformation in production, which was, I really enjoyed that because I love seeing things, and I got to like every day I'd be working with the wings and like with all like the landing gear of the aircraft, and we had an additive manufacturing facility where we were 3D printing metal parts. So I really enjoyed that because you're able to see all the 3D models and like the actual parts, and also interact with them using technology. So like using AR to detect quality defects, implementing blockchain into the supply chain network. Another one was using AI to do repetitive tasks that people spend hours upon end doing. So we had like an AI software that learned what you did, and then it just was able to do that on its own. And then customers, which are like the clients, the people working at Airbus, are able to interact with them throughout different nodes in the process. So, I was able to lead a lot of different projects there. They gave me a lot of responsibility. And the great thing about Airbus was if you just keep pushing for things, they just support you, and you're able to kind of go as far as you want. So, at one point I was invited to go to like the Wall Street Journal in downtown London. So that was a really cool experience. But yeah, it was really great living in England. And I came back, and I took that experience with me. And in my final year of engineering, we were expected to take a problem and actually solve it using technology. So, while we were on our internships, because everyone in my group was actually on internship, we had around 5 of us, and we're saying like, we're not going to be that team that comes in and has no ideas. We want to have like an idea already before school starts and actually maybe start working on it. So, we're talking about doing holograms, and I would still love to do holograms. Holograms are really cool. But then we didn't realize that there's like constraints with the course. They're like, well, are you going to be able to develop holograms and have a working, hologram by the end of the course? And we're like, yeah, we'll be able to do this. But, some people spend like their whole lives researching things like this. So we had to come up with some new ideas. So our first idea was an easy pod, which is like a smart baby carriage that like monitors like the temperature, like the UV exposure. But testing that would be really difficult because we would need to test it on babies, and it'd be difficult to acquire a large test base of babies for this device, right? Like I don't know any mother who'd be willing to put their baby in for a test for this device, although there'd be a lot of value down the road. So we migrated towards like the art space. We're like, is there something that we can do where we can combine technology and art in a really cool way? And we realized that we're all passionate about music, and we're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should do something in the music space. And then we said, well, what problems exist in the music space? So we started reaching out to different like recording studios, guitarists, and asking them what problems they face. And like tuning kept coming up, and they're like, people haven't really solved this tuning problem. Like there's little devices that you can attach to the guitar, but there's nothing that does it autonomously, like fully autonomous. And we're like, really? It just seems so obvious that this would be something that has been built before. And then we did research, and we found out that it actually hadn't been built before. And we're like, we pitched that to our faculty, and it got approved. So then we started working on that and developing it. And we had very like early milestones for our course, which was very, I hate using, not stressful. I don't want to use the word stressful. It was passion intensive, I guess.
Yeah.
And and so we had like early milestones, but we started getting all the modules working, and then we're like, wow, this is a really cool project. We're all passionate about it. let's make this a business. And then we started doing pitch competitions. And at the same time, I was also, from the experience at Airbus, I was fortunate to have different opportunities to speak about, digital transformation in parallel with like the Tunify project we were creating. So I was giving talks like throughout my year at university, and actually was fortunate to meet Bill Nye the Science Guy, who's, a famous American scientist. And I did a competition earlier on where I had to make like a Bill Nye style video for the university, and I was fortunate to win. So that was a really cool opportunity. I wore my bow tie, he wore his bow tie, and we talked about bow ties. That's literally how the interaction went.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, that was really interesting. But yeah, so then we were doing a lot of competitions, starting with like McMaster competitions, then provincial competitions, and then we started getting invited to competitions in like Dubai and South Korea. And unfortunately, those were initially planned for the summer, and then COVID happened, so they're postponed to next year. But still, really like super excited about those competitions. And then one of the accelerators we got accepted to, we were able to acquire funding. So altogether, we raised around like 15 to 20,000, and just from competitions that we were then able to invest into like IP development. So we filed our provisional patent over the summer, incorporation documents. So we're incorporated. We started manufacturing our device with a local manufacturer who does like rapid prototyping. So we're in a contract with them. It costs around $40,000, but they covered around like 38,000. So we actually only had to pay around 2,000, which was great. So the rest was covered from the government. And we have a contract with them until the end of October. So every 2 weeks, we get a new Tunify stand created, and there's modifications made to it within each week. And then we test it. We have a meeting with the team. There's like PhDs and directors, and then they build it, give it to us again, we test it. So it's a very like agile process. And then we have the idea is that we'll have a very commercial ready product at the end of October and be able to start selling. So we actually are starting to accept pre-orders. And I totally missed too. Taka's looking at me. We also went on Dragon's Den, so I totally forgot to mention that. Oh yeah, by the way, but yeah, so we auditioned for that in April and brought in our stand, and people were kind of like, we're in the waiting room and people are looking at us like, what do they have in there? Because we had like a cloak over it, and our device literally has 6 robotic arms at the top of a stand.
Yeah.
And you put the guitar on and the arms actuate and actually tune the guitar. So as you can see, there are 6 robotic arms at the top. We have an automated strumming mechanism that plucks the strings of the guitar, and then we listen for the frequency, and then the servos move until the correct frequency is achieved. And we actually are able to identify the location of the tuning pegs, like on the headstock of the guitar, using computer vision. So we've trained this neural network to detect pegs. So it was almost as if like we're kind of like teaching a child, because initially it was like looking at the back of the headstock and it's like, there's a peg here, and it would draw a boundary box, and we're like, no, that's that's not a peg. But then eventually, like, it learned after we fed like 1,000, like one of our co-founders, I feel like Ryan, like he is, he took one for the team and literally took like 1,000 photos for the neural network. So shout out to Ryan. But yeah, here's a video of the stand. So this was just before we went on to Dragon's Den. We were just testing the metrics. So it's tuning there. And yeah, so it basically turned the pegs until the correct frequency is achieved, and then the robotic arms go back to their stowed position.
Ridiculous, bro. Every time I see like the demo and the videos. Oh my God.
Thanks, man. I mean, honestly, we have a very talented team, so I definitely did not do this on my own. Like, so, like some of the members, like, I mean, all the members on my team are very technically, like, they're technical geniuses. Like, one of the members, we call him Tony Stark. He can just like build and code anything. So yeah, but yeah, so we went on Dragon's Den. Really cool experience. We shot that in Toronto. We went in. So this was actually, I was wearing this shirt, but like there was a denim jacket I was wearing over it, because like part of our presentation at the beginning of our pitch is we were rock stars. So we
Yeah.
were part of a rock band called Dragon's Denim. That's the pun. And then we're looking for our 3rd band member. Where is he? We ask one of the Dragons to come down. We ask him to tune quickly. He gets flustered, ends up smashing the guitar. And then turns out, oh, there's a better way to do this. Tunify stand. We reveal the stand and then go into pitch mode and talk about our business. And they had some really great questions. They were really excited about our product. And And they had a new set this year too. So it was very like American Idol-esque. Like normally it kind of looks like a plant, but this year it was like like I guess it looked like a den before. That's like the because it's Dragon's Den. But like this year it's boom, everything's sparkling, and it was really really cool. So that was a really great experience. And they start airing season 15 next Thursday actually. So yeah, every time I see a trailer or something, my heart pumps because I don't know where, it's definitely exhilarating for sure. But yeah, so right now we are, we're definitely raising a bit of money for, the injection molding of our production. So there is an upfront cost to do injection molding, which is like plastic molds for the robotic arms, because right now we're doing it 3D printed. But once you have those molds, you're able to reduce the price or the cost, sorry, of production when you produce in bulk. So those costs are going to drop significantly. We have pilots set up. We have marketing campaigns ready to go. We're starting to accept pre-orders, and yeah, and we're expanding our network. So we have new advisors coming in every couple of weeks, and it's been really exciting. So that's where I work currently. So I'm the president of Tunify Incorporated, and yeah, and now I'm on this amazing show. So thank you for having me.
That was an amazing intro. I think the people, everyone watching this, is probably just mind blown by all the experiences that
No, no.
you through. I think basically you've had a taste of a whole different all different kinds of worlds, right? You've experienced the corporate world, big, medium, small, startup, all the way to big companies like Airbus, and then you've also learned how to fundraise from scratch with four other co-founders to build a team and build an amazing innovative product. So with that being said, right, I think since our audiences are incoming and current college students,
Yeah.
what are some of the advices that you would have given yourself if you yeah, what were some of the things that you wish you had known starting out in your early days as a college student?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say the first thing is, obviously try your best, work hard to, do your best in school. But I think at the end of the day, like, don't allow it to like control your mental state. Like, don't allow, if you don't get, an 80 or like a 90 on this test, and like, don't let it really like influence you. Cause like at the end of the day, the great thing about like life when you graduate and you're out in the real world is it rewards you for hard work and for like persistence. But it doesn't say, okay, what'd you get on that test? It's like they're not the be all and end all. I think your marks, like obviously you're going to try your best to, to do your best and all that and to be a great student. But at the end of the day, don't let it um, control like your mental health, I think is the big thing. And I kind of let it stress me out. I think for the first 2, 3 years, I was in a 5-year program, and then with internship for a year in England, it was 6 years. But I remember I got really stressed one time and I was submitting a lab and it was due at 11:59 p.m. and I submitted it at 12 o'clock. And then like, even if it's a minute late, like it comes up on, the online, we had like this platform called Avenue to Learn, and it's like, boom, in like bright red, late, less than 1 hour, open for deductions. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I spent like, I think like 12 or 16 hours on this lab, and then my computer froze at the last minute. And
Oof.
then when I clicked submit, like there was like a small delay, and it went 11, it went 12, and then it submitted. And I was like, no. And I was so stressed. And then I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like this. And then after that moment, that was kind of like an eye opener for me, where I was like, I can't let, these like these assignments and these grades like really affect me like in that negative way, because it's always good to be in a state of, peace and a state of gratitude. So yeah, I think it's important to just not let it pressure you. Yeah, so that's the first one I would say.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great advice, I think. I would totally echo that. During my first 2 years, especially my first year, I was so focused on sort of the grades because obviously we're restarting, right, from high school, our
Yeah.
grade from scratch, and you want to do
Mm-hmm.
the best 90. I remember getting frustrated over not getting 100%, and I was on 98% for an assignment. And looking back, I'm like, wow, that 2% made such a big difference, right?
But
um,
it did though, right? No, I'm only joking.
Yeah, it was a totally life changer. But I think being able to, in that moment, it's really hard. I think even us giving that advice, had we gone through with the advice we're giving you now, it's still hard to sort of take a step back from all the things that are going on in your daily life in your college.
Hmm.
So I would try to be more intentional, especially for
Yeah,
you now that you know this advice, to sort of always remember to take a step back and sort of appreciate, the fact that you're able to worry about these small things. Obviously,
for
it's
sure.
you, but always have that big picture in mind. And those small things really, in the end, I think in the long run, won't matter as much as opposed to your mental and physical well-being,
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Yeah, definitely agree. Beautifully said.
Gratitude, no?
Gratitude. Yeah, you know what? Actually, there's a study that showed that literally being grateful can actually like chemically make you like happier. Like there's actually like a chemical reaction. Um, so yeah, be grateful. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. I think going off of that gratitude point, though, I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but just simply one way to show gratitude is by saying the simple words of, I appreciate you, or saying thank you to the
Hmm.
people that are around you, whether that's your family, your loved ones, good friends. Sometimes just saying, hey, man, Michael, I genuinely appreciate you. Thanks for hopping onto the channel today.
No,
Um,
you're welcome. Don't mention it. No, I'm joking. Thank you very much. I appreciate you as well. See, look at that.
Yeah, gratitude goes.
Beautiful.
So that was a little bit more obviously artificial, but doing those in real life, even over Zoom, especially with the current situation, I think those simple phrases will help you get into that mindset of peaceful and mindful state and sort
Hmm.
of start generating those, yeah, chemicals of gratitude, let's say.
Definitely.
So with
Yeah,
that,
perfect.
should we move on to your second advice?
Sure. Yeah. So, and again, like I'm learning every day. I don't have all the answers. These are just things that I've learned so far. So, and I'm sure everyone here has learned some really great tidbits. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say as well, because it's definitely like a two-way conversation.
Comment down
So
below.
yeah, comment down below. Yeah, and subscribe. Okay. Number two, I would say is yeah, so work, if you're interested in like doing something, I would definitely push for like personal projects or working on team projects like on the side. So if you are, in your studies, um, it gives you a competitive edge if you've done something interesting, right? So if you come out and everybody, has the same degree, there's no way to really like differentiate you other than your grades. But like sometimes like companies don't really even look at your grades, they look at your experience, right? Like they say, what has this person done? So if you, um, and so yeah, what I'll say is like, you can create your own experience like at any time, right? So say you're interested in like voice technology and you're like, I really love voice, like Alexa, Google Home, these trends are always growing. And you think, oh, but I don't have experience in voice technology. Boom, start a club or like a workshop or an online series called like voice technology at your university, and then reach out to clubs and committees and say, oh, I noticed like you have experience here. Would you like to give a talk to students? Boom, boom, boom. And you actually build up your network, you learn a lot, and then you're the face behind like that workshop series. And that's just one way you can do it. Then boom, you put that on your resume, you apply maybe for a voice technology position, and you say, actually, I orchestrated this whole workshop. We had this many attendees, and I was able to acquire people who have spoken from these companies. And not only that, we now have a group of students who are now developing, this product or, this Alexa skill, and I'm a part of that now. So you're actually in a way building up your own experience. So there's like never a time like now where you can literally just sit in front of your laptop with a cup of coffee and just like literally change the world. So it's like really powerful, the internet. Everyone is super connected. So I would really push for working on your own projects and finding like-minded people and starting something on the side, because you never know where it goes. Like when we were working at Tunify, we had never thought that we'd be going on Dragon's Den and filing a patent. There's If you find like some really cool people, or even if it's just yourself, you're able to. The great thing about when you're working on things that you like, you tend to attract similar people, and it's just like a feedback effect, ripple effect. So I would definitely suggest that as a second piece of advice.
Absolutely. These advices are golden, golden, Michael. Especially from your personal experiences so far, I think it's really important to build your brand,
Yeah,
um, and differentiate yourself, especially for those who are going to start your college journey, or especially current college students. Right now, it's definitely a stressful time. I can't imagine how stressful it is. Even I'm currently a student, obviously in my master's program, so it's a bit different. But still, this online thing is quite some quite an experience, I would say, and it's definitely a huge toll on all of us. But there's always opportunities, even in tough times. And I think, again, it goes back to that mindset, but try to be intentional about building your brand. And I'm also personally working on that through this channel of improving my communication skills, interviewing skills, and also building on my professional network as well is also part of a small part of the entire sort of goal of this whole Takagai community and family. So yeah, again, great advice.
thanks. Yeah, and no, great words of wisdom.
Very nice, very
Great.
nice. Do you have a couple more? A third one?
I do have a third one, yeah. So the third one I would say is to think outside of the box.
Whoa.
So yeah. No, so what so what I mean by that is um the thing is like I just think that applies in like so many different areas, right? Like if people are doing something the same way over and over, do it differently. Like I remember in my second year, or even like in university, like no one from my university, well, I won't say no one because I don't know everybody at my university. That's a lot of people. But it was rare for someone to do an internship at in a different country. I like a company like Airbus. Like I don't think there was anyone at my university who had worked at Airbus before. And I remember when I was, it's kind of like it starts with your mindset, right? So I remember I was like looking, I'm like, okay, I need to get I want to get an internship for this next year so I can, work for a year and then go back for my final year. And I was like, okay, so what am I interested in? I'm always interested in sustainable energy and, climate change is a big problem. I also love space and like the aerospace field because I feel like there's so many, those two areas for me are like two industries that can like really propel humanity forward. So I kind of like isolated down to those two. And then I'm like, okay, what are some of like the biggest companies in those two spaces? So I started doing research and it was a bit of research for myself too. Like I learned a lot about the companies within each of those fields and I applied to like I applied to like the European Space Agency. I had an interview with them. I applied to Airbus, and at the time I was like, Airbus is in like Europe. Like I'm in like in Canada, And I remember I watched like a promo video of this one guy doing like it was like a very specific like physics application. Like I thought like, oh, maybe like all the internships are like this because I wanted to do something, that had the technical side, but also running projects and team management and things like that. So I, went on the website, looked it up, and just applied, right? And I think if in a similar way, like it starts with your mindset, right? Like kind of going outside of what has been done before and approaching something in a different way. And then, people start asking you like, oh, how did you do that? Like, and then it could become the norm later on, right? So it's always good to be a pioneer in a sense. And that goes for everything, like even in, reaching out to people for, say, for like a podcast, right? Like maybe everybody sends emails to their guests. Maybe, reach out to them on Twitter or something. Like always try to look for ways where you can see opportunity and challenge what people have done previously. Because I think that's really important and it'll prove to be really valuable down the line. Because if you take the time, they always say it's kind of like 80-20, right? Like you want to think of the strategy first and say, okay, everyone's doing it this, so all the traffic must be going here. But what if I use this platform instead? I feel like there's more opportunity because less people have tried that. So taking some time to think of your strategy, whether that's for sales, for developing a project for school. Maybe everyone's done the same project over and over and you come at it in a different way or make your presentation look different. It's even the fact that something is like different makes you stand out. So I think that's a powerful tool that you can use in your life, in the workplace, and academia. I think it has a lot of areas where it'll prove to be super useful for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when it comes to really thinking outside the box for to putting it in more in context for the college students out there, and especially for the audience, I think use all the resources that are around you, and don't also be careful not to sort of be swamped by sort of what everyone is doing, and
Yeah.
tradition. I think I'm also kind of going through that right now, so I need to be careful. But I think the idea is fine, start like with from a clean sheet and
Hmm.
say, what exactly is it that you really want? And I think taking that time to think deeply on the topics that you're interested in, the industry you're interested in, and how that matches your personal skills and how you can contribute, sort of starting with zero and then sort of building your way upwards makes more sense.
Yeah.
At the same time, taking into account leveraging all the people that are around you, the resources around you, and so on. But I think you will be able to think outside the box if you sort of start clean on a blank piece of paper.
For sure. And yeah, I think too, just going off of your point there, yeah, like I think a big thing is like don't be bogged down with other people by what other people are doing, because everyone's on their own path. Like it's in a sense like you don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing, right? Like it's kind of like an insult to yourself if you're always like benchmarking yourself against other people.
Very true.
So I think everyone has their unique skill sets, and like there's so many examples of that, of people who, like even myself, like I studied engineering physics, and we're into the technical, but like I was always into more of like the business and that, and I was like, is this really like fitting in well? But then it proved itself out to be a pretty valuable experience for myself. And if you tend to see that there's a certain aspect of your personality or what you lean towards that you see other people not really leaning to, I would definitely like reach out to people who maybe have that same spark. And I think a big thing for me was like listening to podcasts as well, because it puts you in a room where you're in a conversation with people who might have who are like-minded, and then it's kind of relieving in a way, because you're like, okay, like there's other people who think the same way I do for these certain topics, or for whatever your next move is. And it is reassuring in that sense. So yeah, like leveraging the resources around you and finding like-minded people is good. But at the end of the day, being different is a good thing. So I think that's and use that to your advantage. That's you know, your secret sauce. There's this famous saying where it's like triple down on what makes you weird, and I love that saying.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'll do a quick wrap up of what Michael shared today. So I think really he gave some great insights, especially three advices. So first one being, prioritize your mental well-being and don't sweat on the small things. The second one being try to build your personal brand by really taking initiative and do things on your own. Start things that no one else has done. If you don't see any opportunities out there for you currently. And then the last thing would be um, stay open and try to think outside the box by branching out to different areas and starting from scratch, having a clean sheet in mind. So I would say those are the three key takeaways for the audiences. But what do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's great. I always love watching the videos that have the summary at the end, so I can, go to the part of the video and be like, okay, those are the 3 points. So, but no, honestly, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for, the points that you gave. Like I've definitely jotted down some notes that you've made as well, which would help elevate my life as well. And I hope everyone listening has, a fantastic day. It's a pleasure to meet you virtually. If you do have any questions or want to connect, I have a LinkedIn. It's Michael Jobity. There's only one other Michael Jobity in the world, and he lives 40 minutes away from me, ironically, which is annoying. No, I'm joking. I don't know if he's listening to this podcast. If
Oh,
he is, I'm
my.
sorry. No, I'm only joking. But no, he actually does. He lives like 40 minutes away. He used to live in South America, and then boom, it was like Mississauga like one day. And I was like, wow. So a little scary. But anyways, yeah, you can collaborate with me on LinkedIn if you want to chat, and be interested to hear your thoughts. So thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'll put Michael's LinkedIn link URL in the description down below. And for those of you who are watching till the end, thank you so much. Please put down comments for what you thought about some of the discussions that Michael and myself had, as well as some new topics that you want us to sort of talk about in the future, or any other general comments and feedback would be appreciated, guys. So
Yeah, so smash that like button. So the first 2 people to comment on this video will be sent $25
I thought.
$25 in thanks and in gratitude. So Taka will send you a personal email, and he might deliver flowers to your house too. We'll see. Depends. But yeah, so if we're able to get to 1,000 views, then in the next video, Taka is going to do a backflip at the start, right? I think that's what we had chatted about.
100%, yeah. I'll probably won't be alive by then.
He's very humble, but please subscribe. I'm going to subscribe today because I actually haven't yet. But
Well,
that's the thing. I'm
whoa.
honest, and I will subscribe tonight.
Thank
I
you.
will.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
So please subscribe. Smash that like button, or you don't have to smash it. Just and then comment below. And it's been a real pleasure. And I hope you have a great day.
All right. Until the next one, guys. Ciao.
Cheers.